We are breaking down the Clemson Tigers position by position with spring practice underway. We've made our way through the offense. Check out all the videos with Jason. We make our way to the defense. And Jason, I looked at the 2024 NFL draft prospects for Clemson, and this seems to be pretty much what it's been for the last 10 years practically, and especially when there's been one of those cycles that's come up. Okay, all sorts of Clemson defensive linemen moving on to the NFL draft. So the thought is, okay, who's next?
Yeah, you got all four of your guys that started in the season opener along the defensive line last year. They're moving on. You know, Xavier Thomas has finally exhausted his eligibility. Justin Masco over there at the other end spot, he's moving on. And then the two guys inside, Tyler Davis and Ruka Roro. So you got a lot of production to replace. Fortunately for Clemson, you know, they've got a lot of depth, at least along the interior of that defensive line. They're really deep at defensive tackle. You got Peter Woods coming back, who obviously is going to be penciled into one of those spots inside. And, you know, a guy that's kind of been in the news here a little bit lately, DeMonte Capehart is back, a guy from right down the road from where I live in Hartsville, who's another one of those guys that's kind of patiently waited his turn, and he started to get more opportunities last year. And he took advantage of them big time. I mean, you could just see it every time he steps on the field. He's dominant. He's strong, man. He's good against the run. He can get after the passer too. I expect him to be a part of that rotation. A freshman that redshirted last year, or Vic Burley, he was hurt last year, so he redshirted last year. I think he's a guy that's going to be in that rotation somehow. And then you got Peyton Page coming back, who's been around for a little bit, and Trey Williams, if he can stay healthy, he's another really good guy along that interior. So you have some options. I know you're losing both your starters, but you have a lot of options, and you still have a lot of depth and a lot of quality depth there.
So it doesn't sound like you're too concerned about the defensive front, even though those guys that you mentioned that are moving on to the NFL are, you know, really strong players. And Capehart had 5 tackles for loss last year, and all the guys that you mentioned got their feet wet and were able to make plays and be on the field for meaningful snaps. But you don't seem too concerned that there's going to be that much of a drop-off.
Not along the interior anyways. You know, defensive ends where I have some questions. You got T.J. Parker back, who had the monster freshman season, so you know he's over there on one side. The question is who plays opposite him. You know, Cade Denoff's your most experienced guy, and he's not played a lot. He was very highly touted coming out of high school, along with Zaire Patterson. They were in the same class. We have not seen hardly anything from Zaire Patterson since he's been on campus. And like the offensive line, Clemson's got a new defensive ends coach now too. Womansky Hall moves on, and Dabo Swinney brings in Chris Rumpf. Probably one of the better defensive end coaches in the country. So we'll see what he can get out of this group. But, you know, you've got a lot of inexperience behind T.J. Parker. I thought this was a position Clemson might look at the portal and to try to address in the portal over the offseason. They decided to go against that, or decided not to go that route. I'm not sure that conversation is completely over. You can always go through the spring and decide, hey, man, we need another piece here, and you can try to add in that portal window. But we'll see how it shakes out, because you got T.J. Parker on one side, and then behind him just really no experience. You got Cade Denoff, and, you know, you got A.J. Hoffler, who was a freshman last year. He barely got his feet wet. I think he's going to be a really good player. And then you got a couple freshmen coming in this year, but probably the more talented one doesn't get here until the summer. Darian Mayo, a 4-star guy up there from the D.C. area. You got one in Adam Kasaya who's already here, and he'll go through spring practice, but he's a guy that probably needs a year in the weight room and will probably need a red shirt. So defensive ends definitely, you know, if I had to tag an area of concern going into the spring, that would probably be top of the list.